Bounties in One Piece were never about strength. They were about control. From the very beginning of One Piece, the world government hasn't just tracked pirates. They've manipulated the truth. Hiding threats, downplaying power, deciding who the world should fear and who it should ignore. And no crew proves that more than the Strawhats, from a small group in the East Blue, to one of the most dangerous crews in history. Their journey is filled with victories that should have shaken the entire world. Defeating warlords, declaring war on the government, challenging emperors. And yet, their bounties never truly reflected what they were capable of. In this video, we're going saga by saga from East Blue all the way to Elbaf to calculate what the Strawhats' bounties should have been if the world actually knew the truth. We start in the East Blue saga, where the Straw Hat pirates are just forming, but already making a name for themselves. Monkey D. Luffy defeats Captain Morgan, Buggy the Clown, Captain Kuro down Creek, and Arlong, a former member of the Sun Pirates, at Logue Town. He even smiles while facing execution. These feats show both strength and mindset far beyond a normal pirate. Because of that, Luffy would realistically earn a bounty of around 65 million berries. Roronoa Zoro consistently takes down the right-hand men of Luffy's opponents and helps defeat Captain Morgan. At the Barity, he challenges Dracula Mihawk, the world's strongest swordsman. Even though he loses, his courage and ambition are undeniable. That alone would raise his value, putting his bounty at around 25 million berries. Sanji joins the crew near the end of the saga but proves himself quickly. At the Barity and Arlong Park, he fights strong opponents and defeats Jin, one of Don Krieg's top fighters. Based on that, Sanji would earn a bounty of about 10 million berries. Usopp doesn't have the same level of strength, but he still plays a role. He helps take down Captain Kuro and manages to defeat a fishman, showing resourcefulness and bravery. Because of that, his bounty would be around 2 million berries. Nami isn't focused on combat, but she plays a key role throughout the saga. She operates under Arlong, manipulates pirates and marines, and contributes to Arlong's defeat. Her intelligence and value would still be recognized, giving her a bounty of around 666,000 berries. Now, entering the Grand Line and setting sail toward Alabasta, the stakes get much higher, and so do the bounties. Nami takes a major step forward in Alabasta, alongside Vivi. She defeats Miss Doublefinger, who had a bounty of 35 million berries. Nami does most of the work in that fight, so it's fair to put her bounty at around 35 million berries. Chopper proves himself for the first time as a real fighter. Together with Usopp, he defeats Mr. Four and Miss Merry Christmas, whose combined bounty is 17.2 million berries. Splitting that between them gives Chopper about 8.6 million. And considering his background with Dr. Hiriluk and Kureho, it's fair to round that up to 9 million berries. Sanji has one of the smartest plays in the entire saga with his Mr. It's moment, outplaying Crocodile from behind the scenes. On top of that, he defeats Mr. Taban Clay, who had a bounty of 32 million berries, and also takes out Mr. 13 earlier. Taking both his strength and intelligence into account, Sanji would earn a bounty of about 43 million berries. Usopp steps up as well. He befriends the two giants, fights Miss Valentine, and helps defeat Mr. Four and Miss Merry Christmas with Chopper. From that fight alone, he earns about 8.6 million, which we can round to 9 million berries for his bounty. Luffy once again stands at the top. Throughout the saga, he defeats Mr. 3, Mr. 5, Whipple, and ultimately Sir Crocodile. He also clashes with Smoker and meets his brother Ace. Crocodile had a bounty of 81 million berries. And defeating a warlord is a massive achievement, taking everything into account. Luffy would earn a bounty of around 100 million berries. Zoro continues to prove himself as one of the crew's strongest fighters. He defeats over 100 Baroque Works agents and takes down Mr. 1, who had a bounty of 75 million berries. With everything combined, Zoro would earn a bounty of around 85 million berries. Now we move into the Water 7 saga, where the Straw Hats directly challenge the world government and their bounties take a massive jump. Luffy reaches a completely new level in this arc. He defeats Rob Lucci, the strongest CP9 agent, after pushing himself to the limit and revealing both Gear 2 and Gear 3. On top of that, he declares war on the world government by ordering the destruction of their flag. Defeating Lucci alone is huge, but combined with everything else, Luffy earns a bounty of 300 million berries. Usopp technically leads the crew, but as Soap King, he plays a crucial role. He burns the world government flag, directly declaring war, and supports the crew in key moments, especially in saving Robin, even if he keeps a low profile. His actions are undeniable. Usopp earns a bounty of 30 million berries. Chopper shows a terrifying new side of his power with Monster Point. In that form, he defeats Kumadori, a CP9 agent, but also loses control, making him dangerous to both enemies and allies. Because of that display of power, Chopper's bounty increases to 15 million berries. Franky becomes an official member of the crew in this arc. He fights multiple CP9 agents like Fukuro and Nero, stands up against the government, and builds the Thousand Sunny, the Straw Hat's new ship, with his strength, intelligence, and importance to the crew. Franky earns a bounty of 60 million berries. Robin is the center of this entire conflict, while she doesn't have a major one-on-one fight besides defeating Spandam. Her importance to the world government and her role in triggering the war cannot be ignored. Being part of the crew that openly declared war on the government, her bounty increases to 135 million berries. Nami doesn't have as many standout moments, but she still proves herself by defeating Khalifa, a CP9 agent. Even if Khalifa isn't among the strongest, it's still a significant win. Taking everything into account, Nami's bounty rises to 40 million berries. Zoro continues to prove himself as Luffy's right-hand man. He defeats Kaku, one of the strongest CP9 agents, and also takes down multiple enemies throughout the arc, including members of the Franky family and T-Bone, even though he previously lost to Aokiji. His growth is clear. For all of this, Zoro earns a bounty of 220 million berries. Sanji is one of the most impactful members in this arc. He boards the sea train alone, takes out multiple enemies including the Noodle Cook, and defeats Jabra, another top CP9 agent. He also plays a key role behind the scenes, outsmarting CP9 and helping save Robin, because of both his strength and intelligence. Sanji also earns a bounty of 220 million berries. Now we move into the Summit War Saga, covering Sabaody, Impel Down, and Marineford. At Sabaody, the Straw Hats are completely overwhelmed and ultimately separated. Because of that, none of the crew members gain any bounty increases during this time. The only one who continues fighting on the world stage is Luffy, alongside Jin. Luffy goes through some of the biggest events in the entire story. He breaks into and escapes Impel Down, freeing multiple dangerous prisoners, and then enters the war at Marineford. There, he fights against some of the strongest forces in the world and even reveals his Conqueror's Haki in front of everyone. These actions shake the entire world. Realistically, his bounty could be much higher, but for this scenario, Luffy's bounty rises to 500 million berries. Jin plays a major role as well. He escapes Impel Down, fights in the war at Marineford, and most importantly, protects and saves Luffy multiple times. With his already high reputation and previous bounty of 438 million, Jin's bounty rounds up to 500 million berries. We also have Brook, who joined the crew after Thriller Bark. His original bounty was 33 million berries, but there's a long time gap to consider. Brook was stuck in the Florian Triangle for around 50 years, and in that time, bounty values in the world have clearly increased. Using that logic, and comparing it to cases like Dory and Brogy whose bounties rose massively over time, Brook's adjusted bounty would be around 138.6 million berries. Now we arrive at Dressrosa, one of the biggest turning points in the New World. Luffy takes on two major opponents this arc, Caesar Clown and Don Quixote Doflamingo. While Caesar isn't much of a challenge for him at this stage, Doflamingo pushes Luffy to his absolute limits. In this fight, Luffy reveals Gear 4 for the first time, showing a completely new level of power. On top of that, Doflamingo is a former warlord with deep ties to the world government, which makes his defeat even more impactful. Because of all that, Luffy's bounty rises to 700 million berries. Sanji doesn't get a full fight like the others, but he has a crucial moment where he steps in against Doflamingo to protect the crew, even though he's outmatched. Just being able to hold his ground and save the others is a huge feat, along with handling multiple enemies throughout the arc. Sanji's bounty increases to 300 million berries. Usopp has one of the most important moments in the entire arc. He takes down Sugar, whose ability was one of the most dangerous in Dressrosa. Without Usopp, the entire rebellion would have failed. This moment also strongly hints at him unlocking observation Haki, because of that impact alone. Usopp's bounty jumps to 150 million berries. Nami doesn't get a major fight in Dressrosa, but she continues to show her intelligence and tactical skill in dangerous situations, with steady contributions. Her bounty increases slightly to 66 million berries. Frankie has one of the toughest fights of the arc against Seagor Pink. Even though Pink's bounty isn't extremely high, the fight itself is brutal and showcases Frankie's endurance and strength. Combined with his earlier fights at Punk Hazard, Frankie's bounty goes up to 110 million berries. Brook mostly handles side opponents, but he remains consistently strong and reliable. With his continued presence in the crew's battles, his bounty increases to 150 million berries. Robin plays a bigger role here, going up against multiple dangerous enemies like Tribal and supporting in the fight against Sugar. She also showcases new abilities, including her wing form. Considering her importance and strength, Robin's bounty rises to 300 million berries. Chopper doesn't play a huge combat role here, but earlier at Fishman Island he proved he can now control Monster Point, which is a massive upgrade. Taking that into account, his bounty rises to 100 million berries. Zoro has a dominant performance in Dressrosa. He defeats Pika in one of the most insane displays of raw power we've seen so far, slicing through an entire mountain-sized body. On top of that, he clashes with Admiral Fujitora, which is a massive statement. Combining those feats, Zoro's bounty climbs to 550 million berries. Now we move into Whole Cake Island, deep in Yonko territory, going directly against Big Mom's empire. Nami steps up in a huge way during this arc. While she fights a number of enemies, her biggest contribution is stealing Zeus, one of Big Mom's strongest weapons. That alone massively boosts her importance and combat potential, bringing her bounty up to 140 million berries. Jin proves why he's one of the most reliable and powerful allies the Strawhats have. He stands up to Big Mom, helps the crew escape, and fights against high-level opponents during the chaos. Even though some of those fights aren't clean one-on-ones, his overall impact is massive. Jin's bounty rises to 820 million berries. Chopper takes on Broly and handles multiple enemies throughout the arc. He even has a brief clash with Big Mom, showing his growth and courage. With his improved control and consistent performance, Chopper's bounty increases to 120 million berries. Luffy faces overwhelming odds in this arc. He fights Cracker, defeats an entire army of soldiers, and then goes on to battle Katakuri in one of the most extreme fights in the series. The fight with Katakuri is very close, pushing Luffy to grow mid-battle and elevate his observation haki. Even though you could argue for an even higher number, considering how close that fight was, Luffy's bounty rises to a well-earned 1.5 billion berries. Brook is arguably the MVP of Whole Cake Island. He infiltrates Big Mom's territory, steals a road poneglyph copy, and even clashes directly with Big Mom herself, showing zero fear. His presence is critical to the crew's success, however. Since he doesn't defeat a top-tier opponent directly, his bounty rises to 330 million berries. Sanji plays a central role in this arc. He fights multiple Big Mom pirates, clashes with his own family, and even confronts Luffy in an emotional fight where Luffy refuses to fight back. On top of that, he escapes Big Mom's territory and helps orchestrate the crew's survival. With all of that combined, Sanji's bounty increases to 500 million berries. Now we enter Wano, the biggest battlefield so far, where the Straw Hats go up against Yonko at once. Usopp doesn't have a standout moment compared to the others, but he still contributes during the raid. He clashes with Ulti and Page 1, and supports the alliance throughout the battle. Considering Ulti's level, Usopp's bounty rises to 250 million berries. Nami plays an important role, especially with Zeus now fully under her control. She is directly involved in taking down Ulti and supports Luffy during a critical moment. Because of that, her bounty goes slightly above Usopp's, reaching to 166 million berries. Chopper is extremely important in Wano. He creates the cure for Queen's virus, saving countless people, and even holds his own against Queen for a short time. While he doesn't finish a top-tier opponent, his overall impact is massive. Chopper's bounty rises to 460 million berries. Brook handles multiple opponents during the raid and continues to be a reliable support fighter, while he doesn't take down the top commander. His consistent performance brings his bounty up to 480 million berries. Frankie gets a solid win against Sasaki, one of the Tobi Rappo, and also takes down a large number of beast pirates, combined with his durability and overall performance. Frankie's bounty increases to 560 million berries. Robin has one of her best moments in the series. She defeats Black Maria, a high-ranking officer, and showcases a powerful new form. On top of that, her importance to the world only keeps growing as she gets closer to uncovering the truth of the Void Century. Because of both strength and importance, Robin's bounty rises to 780 million berries. Jin proves his consistency once again. He defeats Who's Who, a former CP9 agent with a bounty of over 500 million, and handles the fight cleanly without taking major damage. His reliability and strength push his bounty up to 900 million berries. Sanji also steps up massively. He defeats Queen, who had a bounty of over 1.3 billion berries, and fully awakens his genetic enhancements during the fight, even without Conqueror's Haki. His strength is undeniable. Sanji's bounty increases to 1.45 billion berries. Zoro has one of the craziest performances in Wano. He fights King in an extreme battle and wins, but more importantly, he blocks a combined attack from Kaido and Big Mom, which is one of the most insane feats in the series. On top of that, he unlocks Conqueror's Haki. With all of that combined, Zoro's bounty rises to 1.5 billion berries. Luffy reaches a completely new level in this arc. He fights Kaido alongside multiple allies, including the samurai, Law, and Kid, and eventually defeats him. During the battle, Luffy unlocks his awakening and is revealed to have the power of Joboy, with the mythical Nika fruit. This puts him among the very strongest in the world. While you could argue his bounty should go even higher, based on credit and overall portrayal, Luffy's bounty rises to 3.5 billion berries. Now we move into the final saga, focusing on Egghead and everything up to chapter 1179. Jin is in a bit of a quiet phase compared to others. While he helps against the Seraphim and remains one of the most reliable fighters, he doesn't get a standout one-on-one fight here. Still, his overall level keeps him among the strongest in the crew, bringing his bounty to 1 billion berries. Brook has a quieter role, but still contributes where needed. Even without a major fight, his consistency and experience keep him relevant, and the fact that he knows Gunko put his bounty to 600 million berries. Frankie has a strong showing in this saga. He fights multiple high-level enemies, including Seraphim like a shark and a snake, and even clashes with Saturn. With Vegapunk's influence and possible upgrades, Frankie's strength keeps growing. His bounty increases to 790 million berries. Robin is in a difficult position during this part of the story, spending much of the time recovering and reconnecting with Soul. However, her importance to the world has never been higher, as she remains the key to uncovering the truth of history. Because of that alone, her bounty rises to 950 million berries. Chopper once again doesn't get a full fight, but his value as a doctor becomes even more important. His ability to handle extreme conditions and support the crew in critical moments makes him incredible. Why valuable? Because of that, Chopper's bounty rises to 800 million berries. Sanji stands right alongside him. He fights against the Five Elders, clashes with Kizaru, and plays a crucial role in both survival and defense. On top of that, he handles threats like the Seraphim and continues evolving as a fighter. Sanji's bounty rises to 2 billion berries. Usopp doesn't have a massive role yet, but he still has a key moment where he damages one of Saint Saturn's forms. It's a small glimpse, but it shows his growth toward becoming a true brave warrior of the sea. Because of that, Usopp's bounty increases to 360 million berries. Nami takes more of a support role, but still proves her importance. She helps save Robin and contributes during critical moments, including trying to stop the chaos during Elbaf. Her bounty rises to 360 million berries. Zoro continues to prove he's one of the strongest fighters in the world. He defeats Rob Lucci, clashes with one of the Five Elders, and shows overwhelming power even against legendary giants like Dory and Brogy. With his growth and mastery of Conqueror's Haki, Zoro's bounty increases to 2.5 billion berries. Luffy reaches a level that puts him beyond almost everyone. He goes toe-to-toe with the Five Elders, clashes with Kizaru, and shows resistance to Inu's mysterious power. On top of that, his presence alone is now shaking the entire world order. With everything combined, Luffy's bounty rises to 5.56 billion berries.